With injury updates and more, this is Pro Wrestling Central. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. When it comes to Jamie Hayter being absent from AEW programming recently, Dave Meltzer said this on Wrestling Observer Radio. Yep. I guess she was hurt in the Mercedes Money match, which is kind of unfortunate. So when they did the Tekla injury angle, that was set up to cover for her injury and to give her a storyline reason to be out. I just figured it was a way to introduce Tekla and set up a feud, and that they didn't follow up on because there hasn't been anything. But that's the reason that it wasn't followed up on, because she actually went into it hurt. So when she's ready, they do have an angle they can follow up on. Asked if The Undertaker was at the WWE and AAA Worlds Collide event, Conan noted on his Keeping It 100 podcast, yes, bro was running around, so I think that Undertaker wants to get into creative. He likes it a lot. And he was in creative at Money in the Bank. He was at the other one, Worlds Collide, and he's very interested in being part of the creative team. He'd do well, bro, because I listened to some of his, thoughts, and I agree with him. After undergoing surgery prior to WrestleMania 41, Rey Mysterio is set to return to WWE and AAA, as Conan said this about his friend on that same podcast. Yeah, he will be in future shows. Great working with him and Dom, and I can't wait to see who else I'm going to get to work with. He's not back till August. Providing an update on the Ringboy lawsuit against WWE, Ringside News wrote that the defendants named in the explosive Ringboy abuse lawsuit, TKO, WWE, Vince McMahon, and Linda McMahon, are officially trying to get the case thrown out. Last Wednesday, attorneys representing the wrestling giant and its former leadership team filed motions asking a federal judge in Maryland to dismiss the case, arguing they never owed a legal duty to the alleged victims and that the state isn't the right place to litigate the matter. The lawsuit was filed by 8 anonymous former WWE ring crew members who claimed they were sexually abused by former WWF ring announcer Mel Phillips and, in one case, by former WWE executive Pat Patterson. Phillips and Patterson are both deceased and are not named as defendants. WWE's legal team argues that the plaintiffs have failed to show the abuse is connected to any specific action by the company or its executives in Maryland. According to the filing, John Doe 3 does not plead abuse occurred in Maryland, but in the complaint, the plaintiffs directly allege otherwise. John Doe 3 attended at least 12 wrestling shows with Phillips from around 1983 to 1987 in at least the following states: Maryland, Pennsylvania, and other states. John Doe 3 was sexually abused by Phillips in all of those states multiple times. The Maryland jurisdiction is a key issue because the state recently passed a law removing the time limit for survivors of child sex abuse to file claims. WWE, Vince, and Linda McMahon insist that none of them lived or operated out of Maryland during the timeline of the alleged abuse and argue that just hosting wrestling shows there doesn't make the state the appropriate venue for the lawsuit. On top of that, the defense says they had no legal duty of care to protect the plaintiffs. WWE argues that the Ring Boys weren't employees, and even if they were, Phillips's actions were outside his job duties. WWE's attorneys wrote, any alleged sexual abuse by Phillips in Maryland was plainly outside the scope of his employment, which means he was not acting as an agent of WWF or TKO or WWE at the time of the events. Phillips, who regularly appeared on WWF TV, is now being downplayed by the company as a possible independent contractor, but the lawsuit goes further, citing sworn testimony from 1993 by New York Post journalist Phil Mushnick, who claimed Vince and Linda McMahon had direct knowledge of Phillips' troubling behavior years earlier. The complaint quotes Mushnick's deposition, stating, "Vince acknowledged that he and Linda McMahon had known for some time that Mel Phillips had a peculiar and unnatural interest and attachment to children, that Linda and I decided that this was wrong and had fired him in 1988 for it, only to let Phillips return weeks later to WWE out of pity." Meltzer, who was also on the original call with Vince, confirmed that account in 2020. The lawsuit further claims that Shane McMahon once injured his arm wrestling with one of the plaintiffs, but Linda McMahon pushed back on that too. In a sworn declaration, she said, "At no point in Shane's childhood did he injure his arm in the manner described." TKO, WWE's parent company, is also asking to be removed from the lawsuit. Their attorneys argue the plaintiffs haven't spelled out how TKO, which only recently became WWE's parent in a 2023 merger, is legally responsible for abuse that allegedly happened under Titan Sports, the former WWF corporate entity. Their motion states, "The complaint does not allege that TKO expressly or impliedly agreed to assume the liabilities of its predecessor. The legal battle is just beginning. The plaintiffs have until July 28th to respond to the motions, and the defense will get a final reply by August 27th. A court hearing may be scheduled after that, giving both sides the chance to argue their case directly before the judge." The lawsuit comes after Vince McMahon's recent resignation from WWE in early 2024, following another major legal scandal involving allegations of sex trafficking by Janelle Grant. With so much legal pressure mounting, WWE and its former leadership are doing everything possible to avoid facing these claims in court. In a video on X, WWE star Zoey Stark, who is out of action after suffering torn ligaments in her knee, responded to an AI deepfake of herself claiming she's retiring.
I just got done with an MRI, and it confirmed I tore my ACL. My knees are officially made of glass, and unfortunately, I will have to retire from WWE and pro wrestling as a whole. I was really enjoying entertaining the fans each and every week, but...
That's pretty funny, actually. This AI video, whoever made it, great job. You did a fantastic job because a lot of people fell for it, including my own family. It's not true. I'm not retiring. Not anytime soon. In fact, I'm here at the UFC Performance Institute to do rehab on my knee and working my ass off 3 to 4 times a day of physical therapy. Look, I'm gonna share my journey with you guys, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the road to recovery, and what it is. So, stay with me. I love all you Stark Marks.
What you say is what you got.
Touching on a star in All Elite Wrestling that could be leaving the company for WWE, Jonathan Coachman noted on Behind the Turnbuckle, "Alright, so I just got this in real time. You guys know, I've just been breaking news left and right, and when it's in context, I have yet to be wrong. So I just found out there's a name, a female name, out there that is this close to signing with WWE. Any guesses?" Co-host Tommy Carlucci asked, "The one from AEW, Britt Baker?" Coachman replied, "Ding, ding, ding, ding. Gone from AEW. Close. My sources keep coming to your boy. She is ready. She's so ready. She's got the built-in storyline, and she got buried because she pushed back. She spoke up about what was going on, and in wrestling, you know you can't do that." Despite this information, it was previously reported that Baker signed a 5-year deal with AEW in the fall of 2021, which would see her under contract until the fall of 2026. Unfortunately, an injury was suffered during a match on Raw, with Ringside News writing, "Liv Morgan's injury on the June 16th episode of WWE Raw wasn't a scripted moment or a cover for an outside project. it was 100% real. After taking an awkward bump during her match against Kairi Sane, Morgan was pulled from the match and later diagnosed with a dislocated shoulder. Ringside News can confirm that the injury was legitimate and not part of any storyline. WWE medical staff evaluated her as soon as she returned behind the curtain. There's no heat on anyone involved, as the situation is being described as a freak accident. WWE is now waiting to determine the severity of the dislocation, which will dictate how long Morgan may be sidelined. A minor dislocation could keep her out for just a few weeks, but if it's a severe case, the recovery time could stretch to around 16 weeks or more. Brian Alvarez said this on Wrestling Observer Radio: "They're going to have to vacate those women's tag team titles now." Dave Meltzer added, "Conceivably." Alvarez continued, "If the shoulder's dislocated and you pop it back in, then it could be a long time, it could not be a long time. I guess it depends on how much damage was done when it came out. There are people that their shoulder gets popped out and they get their shoulder put back in, and rather quickly they're ready to go again. So I think in a couple days we'll probably know. We're in the middle of Liv and Nikki Bella, which is clearly going somewhere." Meltzer added, "That's probably a tag match if Brie's coming back, and you know, the last I heard, they're talking to Brie." Alvarez then said, "And it would be against Liv and Raquel for the titles. Liv and Dom came out to open the show, and as we talked about yesterday, they advertised the return of Nikki Bella here on this show." Meltzer clarified, "Nikki Bella was advertised on the show and she was not there because, you know, selling the injury thing from last week." Alvarez then said, "She did her podcast this week. Nobody believes these injuries are real, but she was talking about the line from Io Sky, the one everyone was criticizing when Io said, 'Thank you for paving the way.' I think she was probably going to be involved in whatever they were doing with Liv, but since Liv got injured, the entire thing got scrapped. That's my presumption." Meltzer added, "She could have at least done a promo. I think the whole segment changed due to Liv's injury." And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.